Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Welcome back, everyone. This week I have an amazing guest. And yes, I will find a new word for amazing because I overuse it, but she is amazing. I had the pleasure of meeting her last year. We did a book together. So Delynn Miller, she is a wife, a mother of two beautiful daughters, #1 best-selling author, health and mindset coach, network marketer, a powerful woman. And I'm going to stop there because the list is long and I could get into her awards as well, but I won't. We're just going to have a nice discussion today about paradigm shift because Delynn is acing that subject. Welcome, Delynn.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So I can talk, when I say that she's acing that category, it's because I faithfully follow her Facebook group, and it's really an uplifting group. So talk about that a little to start.
You know what? I really wanted, when I first started showing up more on social media, my main goal was to just be a space where people can go to for information and really have information and tools there that are going to help raise their vibration. And that was my main goal. So that's where High Vibe Life came from, because it was like, I have to help people raise their vibration, give them all the tools, and then you start to become a vibrational match for what you desire, right? And the more I become obsessed with universal law and all of this just awesome stuff that I had no idea that even existed before, it just rings it even more true for me. So I just love it.
So I'm going to ask you, Delynn, because not everyone is familiar with vibrations. I feel like these days it's a word we hear quite a bit. Yep. But, a lot of people don't even want to ask, well, what's vibration? Because when we think about that, I don't think we think about like the energy vibrations really. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I've been a personal growth junkie for 20 years, at least. And you would have asked me if I knew a lot about personal development and all of the things. I would say, yes, I know everything. I know all the things. I've read all the books, right? But the fact was that I wasn't getting the results that actually showed that I was reading anything, right? So I really started tapping into something. I was like, there's got to be something higher level that I'm just not getting, right? And for me, universal law kept just falling into my lap, and it always just seems to fall into your lap, right? If everybody thinks of the things now that you're like, man, had I not been exposed to that, my life wouldn't look the way it does right now. And for me, it's universal law. And one of the main laws of the universe is this law of vibration. I would say it's the main law. Some people say the law of attraction is, but it really depends on the law of vibration. And the law of vibration says that everything's vibrating, nothing rests. So like even me in this meat stick that I live in right now, it's just a mass amount of cells vibrating at a high rate, right? So I live in this meat stick, and I have a spirit with intellect living in this physical body, right? And ultimately, you start attracting in. So we have these catchphrases, right? Like attracts like, thoughts are things. And especially in the network marketing arena, you hear these things all the time. And I was like, what do you mean thoughts are things? What do you mean like attracts like? The law of vibration is like attracts like, where you are, if you are vibrating high as a human, then you will attract other high vibrational things in. If you are vibrating low, then you will attract those things in, and then wonder like, why does my life feel crappy? Or why do bad things keep happening to me? raise your vibration, and they won't. Like it's like a miracle the way it works. So anyways, kind of blows my mind whenever I even think about it. I could talk about it forever.
Well, we could listen forever. And I love how you call it a meat stick. Like that, honestly, I'm stealing that from you. I'm living in my meat stick. So tell us a little bit, so someone who's not really familiar with vibration, I could tell you, well, I want to have high vibrations because I want to achieve and I want to keep going and I want to be positive and everything. How do you actually change your vibrations?
There's lots of ways that you could change your vibration. But what kind of got me into really learning about these things and practicing them? So I worked in corporate healthcare in a hospital for 15 years. Okay. And what I was noticing was that we weren't doing things that were actually raising vibrations. Like we weren't actually teaching those tangible things, right? And so initially, when I decided to kind of go out on my own, my goal was to get back to the basics. And what I learned was the basics, like everything that's on this planet for a reason, is here to raise our vibration, to keep us in a high vibrational state. Anything synthetic automatically lowers your vibration. So there's a really quick way to kind of think about it, right? So to raise your vibration, real food. Like just plain and simple. If it comes from the ground, it's going to raise your vibration, right? Like everything has a vibrational frequency. Like meat vibrates at like say 2 megahertz, whereas broccoli or spinach vibrates at, and again, I don't know the exact ones, but like say 100 megahertz. Okay. It will raise your vibration. That's what led me into using things like essential oils and plants for my healthcare, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, these things are here for a reason. So you've got some plants that vibrate at a lower rate, and then you've got other plants like rose and frankincense that when you smell them, when you apply them, they actually raise your vibration. Things like music. That's why dancing around and singing makes us feel good, right? You know you're in a high vibrational frequency when you just feel good, right? Listening to this podcast, right? Inspiring yourself, practicing gratitude, instant vibration lifter, like guaranteed getting you into that space every single time.
It's funny, like
exercising, right? Same thing.
Exactly. Sorry. I was going to say it's funny how, I guess I was asking you the question waiting for the secret sauce. Like, what's the secret answer? What is the one thing that I need to do? But it always comes to the basics. Be healthy, and be healthy in a way just like, you need to eat healthy, be active, feed your mind positive stuff. So it's really the basics, but it seems like it's always the basics that we don't have the time to do.
Right. Well, and see, that's the paradigm. So this is how I got into paradigm shifting, right? Because we have these stories, like your paradigm is just all of your habitual thinking. So if you grew up, and a lot of people, like I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, right? I wasn't raised to think this way, right? Like I had 2 working parents. I was raised on, like, sometimes we had fast food, penicillin and Pine Sol. Like this is how I was raised, right? And a lot of people were, right? So our paradigm, our habitual way of thinking is, and I remember thinking that way, eat healthy was like a diet. And because I was taught that it was a diet, right? Because diet culture was a big thing throughout generations of my family. And like, I was taught that if you ate that way that you were dieting, but it wasn't an actual way of life. Right? So, and who had time to do that anyways, if you were working full time or in school full time or whatever, right? Same thing with exercise, right? It wasn't something you did that if you wanted to lose weight. Like that's the only time you did it. You didn't actually be proactive with your health, right? And if we look at our society now, we can see the pickle that we're in is like, so many paradigms are this, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But it's like, we always goes back to like, we have time for what we make time for. Like we always have time for things that we want. If I want to find 3 hours to binge watch Netflix, I'm going to find it. right? Like that's just the way it is. And there's lots of tools that you can use to intentionally insert these things to raise your vibration. But it's about being intentional about inserting them into your life.
Yes, and you know, a lot of us have heard that if you don't make time for your wellness, you will have to make time for your illness because then you're just like your back is against the wall and you have to. And unfortunately, so yes, we need to be more proactive. And I love, you know, really, so the meat of your work is really paradigm shift. You are a health and mindset coach. And like I was saying in pre-interview, I feel like we hear that a lot, but you're doing it in a very unique way that is actually very efficient. Tell us a bit about that.
What I love most about helping people shift their paradigms, to shift their habitual thinking, is because it's permanent. It's not like a quick fix. Like it takes time to do. And like I work with people for 6 months at a time, right? It takes time to do, but once it's done and it impacts every single level of your life. Because you live in a very orderly universe. How you do one thing is how you do all things in your life. So people will come to start working with me and they're like, oh, I want to, like, for example, like I love working with network marketers, right? I am a network marketer. I love the business model. It doesn't matter what company you're with. I'm like, I don't care. Just like, it's brilliant, but you have to, network marketing, for example, has this bad rap about it, right? So our habitual thinking about network marketing, like I spent the first year of network marketing not even admitting that I was selling something because I was like, I'm not selling. I used to tell people I'm connecting them with health and hope. Like this is what I would tell people, right? And so, but I had to first change my belief system and step into being a network marketer, right? But so I went into my paradigm shift, like working with my coach to start wrapping my head around that. And it ended up shifting everything for me. It didn't just like stepping into who I wanted to become, like knowing where I was going and then stepping into that space. I couldn't go back. And now if I tried, I don't mom the same. I don't wife the same. I don't daughter the same. I don't do anything. So not only did it have a positive impact on my business, it had a positive impact on my bank account, on my relationships, on my health. And I thought I was pretty healthy before, right? It had an impact on everything because I'm always going to, okay, Delynn with her goal achieved, like her goal is already achieved, it's done. What decision would she make? How would she do this? And then I make decisions now from that spot, always, every single time.
I heard that from you not too long ago, and that's such a critical, you know, piece of it's that's one of the best keys to success, whether it be like Delynn said, personal, business, or whatever. Once you start thinking, like I'm starting to think a little like this too, because you know, like you said, it's work. We always go to our first initial reaction, and then I'm like, no, what would Carolyn say? Or do or decide. And yes, sometimes you're like, it's a little different right now. So it's just an adjustment. And I think that what you're talking about also is that the paradigms are all personal and they're all in our head. You know, some people will also talk about the negative voices that we have, but a lot of us, a lot of them have been ingrained in us when we were little and we don't even realize it. Like in the past 2 years, I've been paying attention to that. And I had a fantastic mom growing up, and she's still really great. But I mean, the way she raised me, she gave her 400% and gave me all the love I needed and all of this. But there's things she said, like now that we're more into psychology and things like that, I'm like, I cannot believe you ever said that to me. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's okay. You didn't know. But, you know, these things like, or she would tell, you know, one of my sisters, like, oh, you look like a boy. Like, who says that to their kids? Of course it creates complex. But I mean, she wasn't saying it to be mean. It was just, people back then were not working with all the psychology that we have now, and but anyway, all this to say that we have a lot of paradigms, yes, as just as a general society, to like money doesn't grow on tree, and you have to work so hard, and be the first to get in the office and the last to leave. Now we're just like, no. And I'm going to talk to this a little because I'm still struggling a lot with that. Well, a lot, way less than I was. But when I have nothing to do because I chose to, because I really plan it in my day timer, like nothing, because if I don't plan it, I'll always find something to do. And if there's nothing, I'll start a new business. It's just, but it's the feeling of being okay doing nothing. And it doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean that your success is lowering or whatever. Can you talk to us about that a little?
At the end of the day, we're always going to get what we believe, right? And I'm with you, Carolyn. My mom, total rock star growing up. She was a single mom who had 4 jobs though. So I constantly watched her go, 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 like busy, right? And when I look at even my entire journey up until now, if I don't plan, like I plan intentional meditation. I know it raises my vibration. I get to visualize myself with my goal achieved. But if I don't plan it in there, I will find work, right? But you're always going to get what you believe. So you have to start affirming to yourself that you can create affirmations, right? Like I am so happy and grateful now that I can, lay down and meditate for 30 minutes and achieve my goals at the same time, right? Because I don't know about for you, but for me, it was, I can do this or I can do this, right? And so even when I first decided to leave corporate and start my own business, I had my girls at that point were 2 and 4, right? And I had this belief in my mind that I can either be a good mom or I can grow a huge, awesome business that impacts millions of people. And it was very much a one or the other thing. And it was when I started to believe and instead of or, right? I can have an amazing business and I can be an awesome mom. I can have $1 million and my neighbors will still love me, right? I can have a network marketing business and people aren't going to think I'm a crazy pyramid schemer, right? I can, right? Just we have these stories in our head and it's like, they don't even make any, like when you actually break them down, like money doesn't grow on trees. Like I remember hearing money doesn't grow on trees. Like when you actually break that down, it's like, oh my gosh, like why would we believe that, right? Like but it was told to us at a time when we were just these little sponges and we took in everything, right? And it's not about blame. That's the biggest thing too, right? It's so easy to then go like, oh my gosh, my mom, my teacher, my grandma, whoever taught me that, like, what the heck were you thinking? But at the same time, everybody's doing the best they can with their current level of awareness. So if you're a mom listening to this right now going, oh my gosh, I'm forming my kids' paradigms. What have I said to them? Oh my God, I told my little girl she looked like a boy last week. Totally did that, right? It's okay, right? As long as you commit, this is the thing, you commit to every single day deciding. If I can give you one tip, it's decide to grow yourself every single day. You commit to growing your awareness. You continue to set a new standard for yourself every day. You will start to become that person. And when you know better, you do better. Fact. The thing with what's happening right now is people are like, well, I know I'm supposed to eat the salad over the burger. But there's this gap between what I know to do and what I'm actually doing. And the older we get, that gap gets bigger because we've read more books on reading salads and there's more fast food people coming out. And we're like, what do I do? Like, I know what I'm supposed to do. And there's this knowing doing gap that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? But it's just like you have to decide. Like, so know where you're going. Step number 1, you got to know where you're going. If you don't, you're just going to be lost on the hamster wheel. Man, I was there for years and it's exhausting. Know where you're going. set that standard for yourself and make decisions from that space every day. Like, and you got to commit to it every day, every day, every day. And then it becomes habitual, right? You've shifted your habits into ones that will get you to where you want to go versus yesterday's results. Yesterday's thinking is going to give you yesterday's results. You start thinking differently today, you're going to get different results tomorrow. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, I agree that these are three crucial steps that you just gave there. And the main one for me is decision. Because like you said, we're in the most, right now our society is the most educated that it ever was. And we have access to so much information, like, you know, especially me, French, English. In English, I'll just Google a word and it gives me like all the different definitions, pictures, this, that. So information is at the tip of our fingers, but it doesn't mean that we apply it. And like you said, the big gap is deciding, because of course, you know, some days the burger is way better than the salad, but, you know, it's all the compounded effect of all of these decisions that will give you your results of tomorrow. And you're absolutely right. And for me, it's like I understood, like I started shifting my results when I decided. And sometimes you can be doing something for years thinking you decided it, you know, because you wrote it on a piece of paper and you wrote your goals and you're like, okay, I'm all done starting the new year's. But, you know, consciously and subconsciously, you haven't really made the decision that that is where you're going. And I love, you know, what you're just saying there. And I just want to add one little thing for the mothers out there, you know, because you really reminded me of me when you said, you know, when you read books and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just messing up my kids. I remember when I was a single mom when my older ones were 3 and 5, and someone gave me a book on parenting, and it's parenting more than one kid. So how to not compare them, how to let them be, you know, their individual self. I did all of the opposite. Like I would buy one thing for one, same for the others. Everything was like anyway, I was reading the book and it was creating anxiety because I was just like, I'm just seeing everything that I'm doing wrong. I was already picturing my kids in therapy and I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to save for the school funds and I'm going to save for the therapy. But, you know, you have to forgive yourself and move on and not be harsh with yourself. And at some point, I started losing the guilt, you know, that mother guilt. And I had them all. I had the entrepreneur guilt, you know, anyway, a big package of guilt. I was carrying that with me everywhere until I realized that when I think and talk about my mom, I'm not blaming anything on her because she did the best with the tools she had. But the one thing that I know is that she loved me so much. And, you know, when I think about me with my kids, I'm like, they can say whatever they want, but everything I did out of love. And yes, I made bad decisions. I said wrong things, but they were never, you know, intended to be harmful. Mm-hmm. So if ever you feel guilty, just remind yourself, no, I love my kids, and there's not one decision that I made that it was malicious. You know, right. Usually as parents, we don't take malicious decisions towards our kids. So yeah. So coming to a closing, Delynn, how can people like reach you and benefit more of your guys if follow her, because she's a ray of sunshine. Honestly, a ray of sunshine, gorgeous and always happy. But how can people reach you and take advantage of everything that you have to offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, follow along. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all the spots, right? But even like if you're going, oh my gosh, paradigm shift, that's what, yes, I need that. Like that, I need to start thinking differently. Reach out and let's chat. We can even link up my info we'll link it up to the podcast. We'll link it up to YouTube and get in contact. I would love to chat with you because that's where it starts, but it's that decision, right? Like you have to decide, okay, this is my next step, right? And it's that decision. Decision is the trigger to that law of attraction. Nothing happens unless you decide. Right? So if you think you've been deciding, but nothing's happening, it's because you didn't actually decide. That's just Plain and simple, what's going down, right? So it's like, if you can do anything to pour into yourself, learn how to make decisions. And really, like, get out your journal right now and pay attention, because maybe you're letting everybody make decisions for you. Maybe you're letting the fact that money doesn't grow on trees make decisions for you, right? If you're making your decisions based on the money that you have now, you're never going to have the money that you want. You're, basing your decisions on the relationships you have now. You're never going to have the relationships you want. You have to make a decision. Like, what do you want? And then, man, watch, the universe is going to line everything up for you. It's crazy awesome when it happens too. So cool.
You know what? I want to add one thing, because I remember being there, and when I was starting to think about a coach or thinking about taking some classes or stuff like that, like, and you have that beautiful name like Paradigm, well, I can't even say it anymore, but you have those beautiful titles. You're like, that sounds too big for me. It's like you're so intimidated just by the idea of getting a coach or getting into a program or taking a course, even if it's just a 3-hour course, because that something will change. Do you know what I mean? It's like something will change, so you're like,
Yeah.
but should I jump in there or not? So what do you say to that?
That's your paradigm talking, right? Your paradigm doesn't want you to change. Like, it's your habitual thinking. You've been thinking that way since you were 7 or 8 years old. So now 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later, however old you are, you've been thinking the same way and making decisions from the same space for so long. You hear something like, oh my gosh, I can shift my thinking to get new results. Like, I'm not going to live in the past anymore. I'm not just going to like read a book and like think I know stuff and then not do it anymore. And then your paradigm is going to swoop in. I've named mine Linda. She's a real piece of work. And she swoops in and she starts saying, who are you to think you could do that? You're not worthy. Money doesn't grow on trees. Come on, you know this, right? Your paradigm is so loud, and it's always going to try to counteract your intuition. Intuitively, everybody needs this. Everybody does. Because everybody has, as humans, we are meant for growth. Our spirit is always for expansion, right? We are meant for this growth, but our paradigm's like, I don't know. I don't think you should do it. Just your paradigm talking. Tell it to move aside. You're taking over the reins now because you want different results and you're sick of the same thing over and over. You're sick of feeling stuck. That's a crappy place to be, right? So
well, there you go. And sorry for all the Lindas out there. I know we're overusing your name. That and I can remember. There's the other one is on Facebook, Karen and Linda's. Sorry, we borrowed your names, but yes. So take Delynn's advice. Go visit her Facebook group. At least start with that. And contact her if you have any, opening and discussion doesn't mean necessarily committing to something right away. But I truly believe as well that everyone should be doing that work. Whether you're in a dark place or in a happy place, there's always a better place to go. Delynn, thank you so much for being here today. I absolutely love you, and you're such a ray of sunshine. And thank you for everyone for being there, and we'll see you next week.
you bet. Thanks, Caroline.